The more important things that I want to talk about is my relationship with Anisa.
Ladies and gentlemen, Slummy viewers, recently iDubbbz released a video where he responds to commentary YouTubers and other creators critiquing him and his wife Anisa. Now we have covered the follow-up to this video, iDubbbz discussing his next video, and as well when he asked his chat if there were any rumours that they had heard about him or Anisa. Now my consensus on this at the time was this wasn't going to go well, because realistically he wasn't going to be responding to any of the big creator clash stuff and stuff people want him to respond to. He's going to be responding to commentary YouTubers and stuff said about him and Anisa, and that's only gone one way in the past. Before we get into the response video at hand, if you haven't already, please consider leave a like, subscribing and hitting the notification bell. It really helps out the channel, especially if you do enjoy the content. But without further ado, let's dive into the topic at hand.
The thing that everyone tells you not to do, and that is feed the trolls. One of the more important things that I want to talk about is my relationship with Anisa.
Honestly, as many jokes as we make about iDubbbz and Anisa's relationship, my core criticisms have always been of their actions and how they come across and how they interact with people and things they are actively saying, not their relationship, although the jokes I personally find are pretty funny. What I want to hear from iDubbbz is responses to stuff about Creator Clash, the more important stuff against him and his wife, not stuff about their relationship.
Talking online. So yes, Anisa will oftentimes, like in many relationships, be the more talkative one. We've been together for nearly 10 years, and all of it has been online for the public to see, and there are still people accusing her of cheating, accusing me of being in an abusive relationship.
I think it goes without saying that the large majority of these quote-unquote accusations about Anisa and iDubbbz's relationship are all played off as jokes. Things that seem pretty awkward in a podcast episode, things that Anisa or iDubbbz say that you can talk about that's pretty funny, and you can have that jokey narrative spin on things. Most people don't genuinely believe that they are in like some horrifically abusive relationship and iDubbbz is calling out for help.
Like, iDubbbz is being stoic here, therefore he's in hell.
Okay, hang on. Watch the change there. Watch the change there.
I don't know what the fuck that was. I have never gotten.
Look at Ian in this moment. Oh my god!
Like, he looks sad. No, he is disgusted at her. He's depressed. He's so disgusted
Working
by this.
on.
He looks disgusted with this.
He looks so uncomfortable. He's like, should I be here? He looks so uncomfortable. Look at this guy's body language. He doesn't want to be there.
Look how miserable he looks. Dude, he looks miserable. Dude, he looks like he wants to...
So they're not a fan of the resting bitch face. All right, well, I'm not going to smile all the time, fellas.
What I find kind of crazy about this is something that iDubbbz saw, sat down and thought, you know, this is something that I need to respond to publicly.
For some reason, well, not for some reason, for the reason of sexism and people's view on OnlyFans and them just not liking Anisa, they want to push forward a narrative that she is actively and continually cheating on me.
Anisa and you were getting tons of hate. She then ran to OnlyFans. You posted this as a public tweet. Yes, people are going to make fun of you. People are going to take a look at some old clips because they're pretty funny. You've put all this stuff out there publicly, people are going to talk about it because it's a public thing. People are going to make jokes about it, but do you really think sitting there and taking all of those jokes seriously and responding to them in a 23-minute video is really going to solve anything and not just fuel the fire even further?
And if you listen to freaks like this guy I'm about to show, it makes sense why. They are obsessed.
Anisa wants to have sex.
I don't know why iDubbbz does this to himself. Honestly, I don't know why he does this to himself. A large majority of this video is focused on one specific channel, which is Kino Casino, and focusing on their edgy jokes and taking them incredibly seriously, and ultimately just focusing on responding to Kino Casino. And ultimately, with what that channel is saying and iDubbbz's responses to what they are saying, there is no reason why iDubbbz should be responding to these people. Ultimately, all he's done here is he's achieved nothing by giving these people more content and a good live stream.
What we're describing here is two grown men who are fantasizing about a stranger and his wife and what they do in the bedroom or don't do in the bedroom. That is creepy weirdo shit.
Or iDubbbz, just hear me out here, they're making some edgy jokes and jokes about your public relationship with Anisa and the fact that she does OF and other stuff they've seen come out of your relationship. Again, this is the type of stuff that iDubbbz chose to respond to for 23 minutes. This type of stuff, not serious hard-hitting critiques that he has faced and Anisa has faced about Creator Clash 3 and other things to do with H3, his content cop, and other situations that he's found himself in. No, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about people joking about his relationship with Anisa.
There's iDubbbz with the bull.
He's using civilized terms to describe a picture of me and my dog. And what are we doing? So many people will tell Anisa and I of just like, don't feed into the hate. And it's like, okay, we're going to post some normal stuff. Anisa posts just me with a picture of my dog, and this is the type of commentary we get about it.
Ultimately, iDubbbz, what we're doing here is making jokes. They made a joke about that image. That's all it is, and saying it's anything more than that, or responding how you've done, is pretty disingenuous. Again, I'm going to repeat myself, why is this the type of stuff we're responding to and blowing it out of proportion? Ultimately, I think it's pretty obvious. People are actively going to make jokes about you because of your reputation on the internet and things and actions that you have done. If it's from Career Clash, if it's from stuff that you've done with the H3 Content Cop, your lies, Anisa's lies and stuff that she said on the internet, that means that people are going to make more jokes about you and Anisa and anything that you post. That's just something that is ultimately going to happen because of your status on the internet and things that you've done. The focus in this video that I personally find more interesting is the fact that now iDubbbz has responded to his former coach who went on H3. But the large majority of stuff that iDubbbz actively responds to that this coach has said isn't the stuff that you'd want him to respond to. You know, the Creator Clash stuff, the important stuff. No, it's about the gorgeous Gabe stuff and about Anisa like lusting after this guy called Gabe. Like, I'm sorry, but why is that your priority? One thing that's important to mention here is as soon as this iDubbbz video dropped, iDubbbz went live and started reacting to his former coach's appearance on the H3 podcast on his live stream.
It was horrible. It was a horrible thing to see. I had, like, essentially, like, our relationship was very... I mean, it was arm's length. It was a business relationship. It was like, yeah, you fucking coach me for this shit, and hopefully I am able to make you proud in the boxing ring. And then, you know, a year later or whatever, he's on Ethan's podcast talking mad shit for no reason. And the craziest part about it is that this guy and Kate were in my Instagram DMs, like, leading up to the release of the Content Cop. Like, woo, yeah, we're hyped. Awesome. Can't wait. I guess when they found it out that it was H3, they were like, this is fucked up.
Something that, by the way, iDubbbz just simply never showed. He never showed those DMs and never showed any proof of this whatsoever. Ultimately, here's the deal with that. If that is the case, then great, iDubbbz can show some proof of it. Otherwise, ultimately, I'm not going to take this at face value. There is just no reason to believe iDubbbz when he's been incredibly disingenuous and lied several times recently. Now, whilst he's reacting to his former coach's appearance on the H3 podcast, if he does decide to respond to some of the Creator Clash stuff on there, that's great, but I want to know why that stuff wasn't included in this video. That more important stuff. Instead, iDubbbz, instead of actually coming clean, decided to mainly focus on his relationship with Anisa.
He's large, he's tan.
I don't call him that. My wife doesn't call him that. If you have some unresolved sexual tension or fantasies, whatever the fuck it is, you need to keep that shit to yourself.
This video is just a trope. Like, I'm genuinely speaking, this video is just awful.
I don't think a lot of these commentary channels want to be held to a higher standard. I think they want to comment on the strategy of things, and they don't want to reveal too much of their own morals or principles.
I find it very funny, iDubbbz of all people, speaking about being held to a higher standard and morals and principles, when it's very clear that iDubbbz himself doesn't have any morals and principles, and will turn out a flip of the coin if it suits him best.
This next guy is the perfect example of what I'm describing. He is being very critical of me talking to a therapist, and by the way, that wasn't even a therapy session. I just happened to cry in that moment, and I was like, this might be able to communicate authenticity, so I'll include it.
He says trying to prove his authenticity. What he means is sympathy and empathy bait by including that and trying to add to this overarching narrative that iDubbbz is now this empathetic guy, and that's exactly why he was doing this whole H3 content cop in the first place. It's also very clear he's just trying to make it about himself and his issues in that moment. It was a criticizable moment. You put that actively in your own video. Yes, people are going to talk about it. Yes, people are going to criticize you for it because it's pathetic.
And then Ian goes on a podcast with a therapist and gets extremely real with him, which is a profoundly stupid idea. Like eating with your mouth full on camera. He of all people should know better than to go on a therapist's podcast and vent about his very real problems on a public forum like that, because people will use that information against him. Like this.
Which is ultimately true, because you are in a controversy. You've just dropped a content cop on one of your close former friends who you previously said you weren't going to drop a content cop or talk about that controversy again. Then you drop that and then you include a clip of yourself crying at the end. Of course that is going to be weaponized against you. It is an incredibly reckless thing to do, especially if you want people to take you seriously.
If you're going to be a hater ass bitch, take it the full way. Take responsibility for having the opinion that crying online is pathetic and weak.
Ultimately, there is a difference between just crying crying online and crying in your own video, in your own content on somebody when you're trying to come across as empathetic, but you've been incredibly disingenuous, lied in the video several times, and then at the end of the video, you include yourself crying in a montage about your relationship with Anisa and the hate that you received online because of it. Because you're trying to connect to the people that you just shat on and lied about and were incredibly disingenuous about and cut context about for over 20 minutes.
Now I'm going to react to a couple of these random creators who have made videos or statements about Anisa and I, just to give you a taste of what an average is.
Ultimately here, iDubbbz isn't going to respond to any actual criticisms of himself and Anisa. He's going to cherry pick ones that are just saying blanket statements or not really saying anything at all. He's not going to pick people that are criticizing him and Anisa for their involvement in Creator Clash and its failings and all the stuff going on there. He's not going to respond to something like that. He's going to choose the most brain dead people possible. Coming clean my ass.
Like, I don't know if it's because I have a higher threshold. It kind of feels like I do, right? A lot of the things that these commentators are commenting on is they're saying like, oh my gosh, that would crush me, basically, if my wife described me in that way or said that about me. And it's like, okay, it would hurt you.
And that's what people are ultimately going to do. They're going to put themselves in your shoes and go, well, if I was in his position, yeah, I'd feel a bit uncomfortable. I think that's a bit of a weird thing to say about your partner publicly, regardless. You know, talking about his stank breath, yeah, that's a bit of a weird thing to say. I don't know why you'd bring that up publicly. Regardless, if you're okay with it, it's okay to point out that, yeah, maybe that's a bit of a weird thing to say publicly, or, yeah, most people would feel uncomfortable if their partner said that about them publicly. Regardless, if you're okay with it, it's an okay thing to point out that, yeah, maybe this is still a little bit strange.
These people cannot fathom that the based epic N-word guy has changed his mind over time. It's got to be a woman or Hassan. I think if they accept that I came to that decision on my own, they have to reckon with some demons of their own. Like, it's hard to accept the fact that I've taken this journey and it's not one I regret. It's actually one that I've felt better after doing.
Whilst there are lots of interesting things and criticizable things to talk about when it comes to Anisa and iDubbbz's public relationship, ultimately Anisa isn't some big controlling demon that made iDubbbz do all of these things. Ultimately, iDubbbz made a lot of his own choices on his own volition and his own accord, and those things are criticizable and you can still talk about that. Ultimately, it makes him more critiquable because he's made those decisions on his own accord, and ultimately there are things that you can critique Anisa and iDubbbz both for or separately. That is just ultimately the case, but Anisa isn't controlling iDubbbz behind the scenes. I think 99% of people know that, outside of all the jokes and, like, you know, focusing on their relationship.
Appointment. Like, iDubbbz calling people incels when the first woman he met literally destroyed, like, took over his life and destroyed him, dude.
I don't know if this is your own theory or if it's just, like, implanted in your brain from all the other hate videos, but Anisa is not the first person or not the first woman I've met. I've met plenty of other women. She's certainly not the first woman I've dated, and certainly not the first woman I've had sex with.
Thank you, iDubbbz, for addressing that in your video. That is something that we all wanted to know, and definitely something that you needed to respond to and say publicly.
Under the premise that I owed them some sort of bonus money.
Yeah, I mean, like, we were also promised a bonus on CC1, and we never got it. But because Michael was so nice, he didn't want to, like, make Ian feel uncomfortable and ask Ian and Anisa about it.
And I was always under the assumption that there was no bonus, because even though he told me there was a bonus, he then disappeared for 6 months and I never saw him. So I was like, was there a bonus or was there not a bonus?
There was never a bonus. I never spoke to these losers about a bonus.
See, that's something that is more interesting. iDubbbz has denied the claims that these people were ever meant to get a bonus in the first place. Now, that's something that this video should have been more about, addressing actual accusations and claims against him and Anisa when it comes to stuff like Creator Clash and actual criticisms against him, not focusing so much on their relationship and Kino Casino.
I'll, you know, probably for the rest of this month, I will be reacting to shit and, I don't know, fucking stirring the pot.
Yeah, because that's going to go absolutely amazingly.
I wanted to make to this video, and normally what I'd do is I'd say, all right, I'll give it another week. But I said no this time. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to re-record it. I'm just going to put it out.
I think maybe, iDubbbz, just maybe you should have re-recorded it and redone it a couple of times before releasing it. Ladies and gentlemen, some of you viewers, I just want to wrap this video up by playing a clip from iDubbbz's most recent live, where he actually addresses the whole $500,000 in the hole in reference to Creator Clash 2.
Money from the ticket sales, on the hotel, on flying people in, on all these other things. So it was just like...
So those decisions...
No, that's not how that works. Everything is fucking budgeted and, like, accounted for ahead of time.
Well, iDubbbz, at least not very well, it seems.
Stake. We're $500,000 in the hole right.
Okay, Anisa has some Some fire to spit.
It really pissed me off with Harley saying, like, we would have really liked to know. Being $500,000 in the hole year 2 is actually amazing. Year 1, we were $1 million in the hole before the event, and that's normal because production, broadcasting, renting the arena, paying fighter purses, all of these things cost money. Second year, we were actually less in the hole because we had I think it was a clothing brand that gave us money forward,
Or
so
even
they could be
Moment House or one of these.
Yeah, Moment House gave us. We were actually doing better, but it's very normal when you're putting on live events to be in the hole for all of the money because or a lot of the money because you're essentially waiting for the last 24 hours for the pay-per-view sales and everything. All the sales come in 48 to 24 hours, so nobody needed to know that we were in the hole. It's normal business.
Regardless if it's a normal thing to be $500,000 in the red and that you were $1 million in the red for Creator Clash 1 and that you had no idea of the pay-per-view or ticket sales, surely you'd feasibly have an inclination about those things and if you'd be able to recoup that money. Especially a few weeks before the event, I feel like you'd have an inclination if that's something you'd be able to do, if you can be able to get out of the hole in the first place, regardless if you know the exact numbers of the pay-per-view or ticket sales.
Shows do to get more buys. We didn't know that that was going to be a problem because it wasn't a problem the first year. The first year, things went well despite not having any of that shit, including having the party.
But yeah, I just wanted to talk about the whole $500,000 in the whole thing because ultimately that was the thing that really interested me the most about his former coach coming on H3 and him saying that, and I found how they responded incredibly interesting. If I do find any more further interesting clips in that live stream when I can actually rewind and take a look at it, I will be making a follow-up video and talking about those said clips. But everybody watching, what was your thoughts on all of this? Please feel free to comment down below. Once done that, you might also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a future Slopping Your video. But I've been your host Samuel, and I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye.